Hey, what's going on? Happy Monday to everyone out there. It's lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, powered by Ameren, Illinois, sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. Claibs, it's your first day off in 3 weeks, and here you are working.
No rest for the weary. That's all I can say.
What time did you guys get back yesterday?
We got in a little after midnight.
Okay.
So, yeah, a little after midnight. And, when you land, you make a decision. Do I unpack now or tomorrow morning? So I decided to unpack and wash. So I was up till the wee hours of the morning. But you know what? It comes with the territory. I'm not one that really finds time to complain about something you like doing.
Yeah, it's and you got the day off, and you know that you don't have to go down to the ballpark for anything. So hopefully, it's all just nice and quiet today after the
no such thing, because when you're gone that much and when you're busy, you just have a lot of catching up to do. So, yeah, I'll be doing that all day and into the night and into tomorrow. So it'll be all good.
What was the road trip or the 20 days straight of baseball games? The Cardinals end up finishing that with a winning record. The past 20 days, but losing the last 2 games and losing yesterday with a chance to win it at the end. What's the mindset of the team? What were they like on the flight back?
Everybody was kind of. I think some people hit the wall as far as the grind, and San Francisco and Kansas City were not two good weather cities. San Francisco was awful yesterday and Saturday. I mean, the wind was blowing at an incredible pace. So where it may have said it was 55, it was more like 40 with the wind gusting. I'm telling you, Joe, I've been going to California a long time, and I don't think I've seen this since the days when they were in Candlestick Park. I mean, it was brutal. I don't know how people play baseball out there. It's one of my favorite parks, but the weather was just, and players don't talk about it. But it would be a distraction for me. Not to mention playing in the outfield and how balls would have, like the ball Epez hit yesterday. That's an out in just about any ballpark. The wind got a hold to it, and the next thing you know, it's a 2-run homer.
Not only that, I mean, it wasn't just blowing it. I mean, it blew it, off to the side too. Like it took it for a ride where they were showing that, the angle that the outfielder was going at, and then not to mention too, Arenado, his double that he hit, they showed that the wind knocked it down to where it shortened the ball 23 feet. They were showing that on the advanced stats, whatever they're using on Bally Sports. They were showing the highlights for that the wind knocked it down to keep it 23 feet shorter than it would have been in any other situation.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, going back to your original question, I think people are like, okay, we're starting to come around a little bit offensively. I think if there was a disappointment in how they played defensively the last couple of days, because that's just not them. Pitching was okay. I think what we watched, though, is the emergence of Ryan Helsley and what he was able to do on the trip. And you think about what he's able to do. Jordan Hicks is starting to really find his way. Steven Match has had a tough week, coming off bereavement, just was out in his routine. Dakota Hudson, if you can get him out of the first inning, he's a pretty effective pitcher. I thought he got squeezed quite a bit. So overall, I think that they have some things they're positive about. I think there's some things they're concerned about. Paul DeYoung and Tyler O'Neill would be on that list. And what do you do next? But overall, I think the emergence of Epez in his first week as a big leaguer has been something nice to see.
Yeah, that just is going to bring up more questions about where you get him at bats, where you put him in there, because it seems like he has surpassed Corey Dickerson as the DH against righties. You've seen that the few days that he's been up, but also with the struggles of O'Neill, with Dylan Carlson. And I mean, neither Dylan Carlson or Harrison Bader are lighting the world on fire right now. So you can rotate him into either of the corner outfield spots, and you can move Carlson to center if you need to and give Bader a day off. Yepes does allow for some movement in there too, but you saw yesterday, I mean, there's still going to be days you got to find the way to get Pujols into the lineup. And where does Yepes go when you do that? So there are a lot of questions in this lineup. but only one guy on the roster that seems like can play shortstop.
Well, it's a good question to have, though. I think at least you have options. Last year I didn't think we had many options about certain situations. This year we do initially, and I think Dickerson will come around. I think he'll figure it out. The question is, does a Brandon Donovan have enough at bats, and can he do enough things to stay here? Is he a guy that maybe you start to think about playing on the infield a little bit more? Well, they'll step away from it for a bit, but I really feel like, Joe, at this point, we won't see a legitimate move made. I think until probably middle of the month, maybe coming off of a road trip or going on a road trip. They're going to give some people a little bit more time as we get settled into the weather, and I really anticipate this week being a pretty interesting week because A, the weather's going to be good. B, you're playing Baltimore, and C, you're playing a team you just played over the weekend, and you really should have won 3 of the 4.
Yeah, coming back home, getting a day off, and then getting 3 games against Baltimore is you couldn't ask for a better week to start, especially with the weather too. That's Rammer gives me shit all the time when we talk about this on Daily Cards. When we go into a series, he's a win the series guy. He's you got to win 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
When you're playing a team like the Orioles,
you got to sweep.
No. Yeah, you got to sweep.
Yeah.
When you play the Reds, I mean, the mindset you should not give away a game to the Reds the rest of the year. That should be every game against them should be a win because they're just that bad.
Well, the Reds have one victory against you this year. That should be the only one, and yes. I agree. That should be the only one they get. Although, I keep thinking they're going to get better at some point when they get some people back. That. Well, because they hurt all the time. I mean, they got some guys that are flat out hurt. I mean, when you look at some of the guys in that lineup, and maybe they passed their prime in Moustakas and Votto and Pham, and you've got a young India, a guy who really accounted for himself well. Colin Moran is a guy. He's not a guy you want to play every day. Nick Senzel is a guy that's got a real future. I mean, they have some legitimate players, and they got a ton of pitching that's just around the corner. Now, can they wait on it? I guess they're going to have to. But the problem you run into then is they're all coming up at the same time. They're all going to be young. They're all going to make mistakes, and they're all going to try and figure out how to get through the 5th inning. So it's going to be a work in progress, but I don't see Cincinnati being the worst team in baseball this year.
Man, it's tough to make an argument for another team right now when you look at how bad they have been so far in the first few weeks. So that's what you have coming up. You mentioned you threw in Ryan Helsley's name into that earlier. 10 innings so far that he has pitched this year. 20 strikeouts, or no? Is it 20
strikeouts, no
20
walks.
20 strikeouts and 10 innings, no walks has just been phenomenal. We've seen these little spurts throughout his career. We've seen him be this good in outings before, but to put that many together in a row to start the year, it's really opened some eyes.
Yeah, he has. And I really feel like he's gone from being a thrower to a pitcher. Because when he throws 100 plus, he's not even grunting. Okay. I mean, it's almost like he's playing catch. But the other pitches that he's able to throw for strikes, I think has been the real difference maker. The changeup, the cutter, he's throwing a little bit of a slider. I mean, he throws maybe 4 pitches, and he's got confidence in them all. And I think that's what makes him an effective pitcher. Now, I asked him this question yesterday. You got these 4 pitches, you're getting a little longer, it's starting down the road. And he kind of grinned and he said, yeah, well, everybody likes to start. He said, I'm just trying to get through this and just figure out what's next. And I love the way Ali Marmol is using him because he's using him in more than just 1 inning. I mean, we're getting 2 innings. Now, the question is, and he brought it up as well, the answer is getting rest in between outings, making sure that he's strong throughout the season, because a lot of teams we've seen in the past, they'll burn up a bullpen, and the next thing you know, by July 4th, they've got nothing. They've got absolutely nothing. I don't think that's going to be the case here with Helsley and the way they're trying to use him.
No, it just with the Cardinals bullpen as a whole right now, I think we have seen enough out of Palante to see that, the early tests that Marmol gave him have paid off, and that you can start using him in bigger situations. I don't know if he has a go-to lefty yet. I don't know if Marmol has kind of decided on if it's McFarland or Cabrera as his top lefty just yet. I think it kind of depends on the situation too. If you need a ground ball, McFarland's the one that's going out there.
Yeah, the problem though, and they give you two different looks too, by the way, and I think that's important. I think you touched on something about situation, because one of the things we've learned about Oliver Marmol early is that he doesn't wait till the ninth inning to start putting guys. If a situation needs the fire being put out, then he's going to put it out in the seventh inning. He's going to put it out in the eighth. He's not going to wait until, all hell breaks loose and then say, well, I got my closer. He's ready to go. Sometimes your closer might be your fireman and coming in and putting out a big inning earlier in the ball game. And I think he can get away with that because he's got enough length in his bullpen and guys with experience that can come in and get you 2 outs or 3 outs in the ninth inning. So, it's something that I think we all need to take into account, that this bullpen has versatility unlike we've seen in the past. So to see who's the number one lefty, I think you touched on it. If you need a ground ball, double play, then maybe here's McFarland. If you got a really tough guy that, that with Cabrera, with his slider and his fastball, I mean, that's kind of a handful for some of these guys. And now he's throwing a changeup to go along with a curve. He's become a very versatile guy also. So I think don't get caught up in the roles. I warn people about this. Don't get caught up in roles, because I think you can really be misled and led down the wrong path with this ball club, especially in the month of May.
Yeah, expect to see some roster moves this week before the game tomorrow against Baltimore. I know Wainwright is scheduled to pitch, but he was on the COVID list as of this weekend. Any word on his testing? I know he tweeted about what he needed to do to be put back on the roster. Any word on what to expect?
I haven't heard anything about what's next for him. As you mentioned, he's scheduled to pitch tomorrow. I'm sure the Cardinals have probably some plan Bs up their sleeve in the event. So we'll just have to wait and see when we get to the ballpark tomorrow. I think the Cardinals want to be really careful about this and not put themselves in harm's way. And if Waino gets moved back a day or whatever, so be it. I mean, it's extra rest, and I think a lot of guys would like to have that.
Yeah, it's Sosa too, still on the injured list. We're supposed to
haven't heard anything on him either.
We're supposed to forget about what the team tweeted out and then deleted and then put back out there. That would
social media has its pluses and a whole lot of it's really one of those things where you want to be first, but it's also important to be right and timely. And there's a difference between timely and first. You want to rush out there to be official with it, but you also have to take into account on how everything else needs to fall into place. So, lesson learned.
Exactly. So there you go. Hey, by the way, pay attention to what we have going on here on Claibs Online all week long. I think we have some tickets to give away this week for the Cardinal games, 3 against the Orioles and then the weekend against the Mets. So no, I'm sorry, the Giants. The Giants this weekend. So pay attention to some of the other shows here, the Daily Cards Live and whatnot that we have here on Claibs Online. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk Blues hockey as they are in the middle of their first round playoff matchup. Back after this.
My name is Jeremy Seabury. I am one of the owners of Pawford K9.
Marcus Galmore, co-owner of Pawford K9.
What makes us different from other dog companies is there is no breed left behind. We stand by that 120%. We specialize in aggressive behavior modification. We don't turn away. We bring them in for a free evaluation to see if we can help the dog.
Here at Pawford K9, we focus on the owners, educating the owners.
How do I get this dog to give me the behaviors that I'm asking for without the treats? So that's when me and Marcus come in. We train the dog, so when you take the dog home, you don't need the treats. The dog is doing it because you're asking it to.
After each training package, we go through a series of lessons. We keep going until the owner gets it.
We make sure that they go over the beatings with their dog, and that dog is listening before they leave here, but also we follow up when they get home. Is your pup listening to you here? If it's not, We one phone call away, we'll make a trip. We got the Paw Pig Mobile, where we go out to their homes and make sure their dog is okay.
Hey, back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the Cardinals' 1982 World Championship team. And coming up on this Friday, May 13th, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a white 1982 inspired performance hat courtesy of Quick Trip Tickets. Still available at cardinals.com/promotions. And Claibs, it's got the circle logo with the one cardinal on the bat. That's my favorite Cardinal logo of all time, and I have one hat with that on it. Those hats look awfully nice. So it's still plenty of tickets available. You know which one I'm talking about?
No, I don't. You know, we have so many logos, man. I've lost track between logos and uniforms and caps, and I don't know what they have. I don't know which one that might be.
Yeah, it's the one. It says St. Louis on top, Cardinals on the bottom, and the red circle with the one bird on the bat in the on the inside. But it's a white performance hat. Again, cardinals.com/promotions. Back with more here in 30 seconds.
At St. Louis Acura, we have over 330 pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models. And all of them are covered by our St. Louis Acura Promise and backed by our Better Business Bureau A+ rating and 30 years in business. We also service all makes and models of vehicles, including glass and bumper repair, paint touch-ups, and full mechanical services from one of our 24 technicians. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you, no matter what vehicle drives you.
Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. Claibs, there it is. There's the white performance hat. That logo. They also got the purse this weekend and the Ozzy Funko Pop, Claibs, to add to your collection of Funko Pops that you have at home of your friend there, the Wizard.
Oh yeah, we plenty of those around.
Hey, so all those available again, cardinals.com. Go find them on the promotions. Blues last night. You know what? If you were to listen to the radio here in town or watch any of the newscasts or just go on social media, you would think that the Blues yesterday were down 3-0 going into that game against the Wild that they ended up winning. It has been just the sky is falling for the past week since they won that game 1 4-0. And yet here we stand, Blues tied up yesterday 2-2.
But isn't that the Blues fan MO? You know, the sky's always falling. And rightfully, I understand it, considering the amount of years the Blues have gone through playoffs and one thing or another can happen. So I'm not surprised by how people panic. It's a playoff, and I think I even shared with you, I thought Minnesota would give the Blues all they could handle. But I didn't know the Blues are going to have to deal with such a shorthanded situation from a defenseman standpoint. And they managed to pull it together yesterday. Minnesota was looking for the jugular. The Blues didn't let them have it, and they fought them off. And I think tomorrow night in Minnesota is going to be a real battle. You know, it's been proven that winners in Game 5 in the Stanley Cup playoffs go on to win like 79% of the time the series. So the Blues have the work cut out for them. I think the one good thing they have working is they have played well on the road. They know they can win in Minnesota. I would think that Jordan Bennington would be back in the nets tomorrow night. He played well yesterday. He did some things early to give the Blues a chance. So we get him going. That I think that's going to be a plus, and hopefully the Blues can get some of the veteran defensemen back. Also, I have not heard on what Letty or Bartuzzo stand. It sounds to me like Krug might be down for a bit. So but I tip my cap to the journeymen that were out there yesterday, Santini and the other guy, I can't think of his name, and then Perunovic came back, Rosen. So they're doing it. I don't know how they're doing it, and I just think if they can hold on till a cavalry arrives, I think this could be more an interesting series.
Yeah, it's just the injuries have just been devastating.
But everybody deals with them, though. Everybody deals with them. So I mean, that's the playoffs. You look at every team. Look at Pittsburgh. They lost their goalie before it got started. I mean, you've had some other guys go down, and believe me, this is the hardest trophy to win for a reason, because you pay a physical and mental price unlike anything in any other sport.
No, I agree. I mean, and you're right about that. So you go. I agree with you too on Binnington starting Game 5. I just, it's been so back and forth, and I think this is something you and I have been debating for months now over who gets the start in the postseason, and it really has just come down to whoever's playing better, whoever's going to make the goal or make the stops. And when you get here, I mean, I thought it was the right call to start Husso in Game 1, but now we're here. You know what? Binnington wins. You keep playing with him.
I agree. And I tip my cap to Binnington where he kind of stayed ready, much like when Jake Allen had to stay ready when he was when Binnington was hot a few years ago. And I hope Husso stays ready because I don't think you can go through a series or go through the entire playoffs with one goaltender, at least one that's, I didn't think Binnington was hot. I thought he was good. And I think you find more good goalies than hot goalies these days.
Yeah. Have you watched, have you been paying any attention to any of their series?
Yeah, I've been trying to watch all of them. The Calgary-Dallas one has been priceless. Calgary's going to be a tough team to beat because they have everything you need right now. They can score. They're very good defensively. They do play the body and play the body they do well. And Dallas is trying to fight back. And Dallas is a very game chippy team also. So I've been watching that series. Colorado, Nashville should have never happened. Nashville just outgunned. They lost their goalie as well, so they have no chance. The Washington series has been interesting. Florida and Boston has been beyond entertaining. So yeah, I like what I see with regard to these series. In the Edmonton LA Kings series, I mean, when you get beat in that series, you don't get beat. You get your ass kicked. I mean, those scores have been shutouts and getting blown out. But how about this? The other day in L.A. at the Crypto Center, wherever they call it now, they were going to have
Crypto.com arena.
Yeah, which, by the way, they're spending a ton of money. But anyway, point being, Oilers are out for a morning skate, and they wouldn't put the nets out there for them to skate, to practice with. And they had them off to the side and did not put them out there for a while, did not turn the lights on in the building, or at least they were dim. And it was really, somebody should lose their job over it. But the Oilers were like, no problem. They beat them 8-2 that night. So, I mean, but somebody's got to pay the price for that. You cannot do that to another opponent, to lock up your building and not give them the opportunity to participate in a skate or do whatever else they want to do.
You would think that the maintenance there that they would have everything ready because they don't have a basketball team playing there right now that has to go on. So it's, hey, you know what? They should just be ready for hockey. The ice should just be there at all times right now.
I agree with you.
By the way, that I was going to bring this up. Have you watched? Did you watch any of Winning Time these past few weeks?
I have watched it. Yeah.
I know you're a big Lakers guy, so
well, but see, here's where the disconnect comes. They took the book, which was a good book, and then they tried to Hollywood it and add some things and subtract some things and embellish some things that's got some people in an uproar. So I tell people that's not how the Lakers really worked, according to this TV show. That's not how it worked. There were some snippets of some things that took place, but to portray Jerry West as this raving lunatic is certainly wrong. And there have been some other things in there I disagreed with, not only because I read the book, but I was a Laker fan and who had an inside contact on what was really going on. So from a Hollywood standpoint, I think it's entertaining. I think from a reality standpoint, it's disappointing because it's portrayed some people in a light that really didn't take place.
So you have this TV series that's out there now based on a book, which was based on a run of a great years of a team, a dynasty, if you will. Is this something that we should see more? I mean, this was very different from The Last Dance. This was this was Hollywood. This wasn't a documentary. Are there other shows you think or other teams that should be covered in that same light?
That's a good question. I'm thinking of the book the guy wrote about the Chicago Bulls that created such a stir, and I can't think of the name of it. Jordan Rules. That would have been Sam.
Sam Smith.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was
And
written about the
Sam's-
Bulls, it had to have been Sam Smith, right?
Yeah, and Sam had access. Okay, they
Yeah.
gave him access, so that would be an interesting book. Now, I think the problem you run across is finding people to portray some of the individuals, and I don't think the book would go well for certain people that are still around and within. Well, Jerry Krause is no longer with us, but I think it would evolve around him a great deal. But yeah, I really don't care for those for the mere fact that it's more Hollywood fiction than reality. And I think when we start talking about the character of people, and especially them being alive and what the impact it has on them and their families, I think that's really it's kind of a cheap shot.
I mean, it's something on like the '80s Mets.
80s Nets.
Mets.
Ah,
I'm thinking going other sports.
yeah,
I'm
but I
thinking,
mean,
thinking
you know what?
90s
just don't know.
Cowboys.
I just don't know if there's enough there, to be honest with you. I really don't. And we've seen movies depicted to emulate a team. And I'll give you a good example, North Dallas 40, which in my opinion, one of the 5 best football movies ever made, because it was close to home. It was so close to home that the NFL was uncomfortable with it and basically blacklisted everybody who was in the league, with the exception of one guy that continued to have a reasonable career. They got rid of everybody else. And the league really frowned on it because it was really too close to home about things that took place off the field. So you can probably pull one of those off every 15, 20, 25 years, but I don't know if it's something that would be a regular in somebody's TV rotation.
Let's get back to the basketball, the NBA playoffs in their second round, and all the series pretty close here so far. You got 2 that are at 2 games apiece, the other 2 games to 1. But yesterday, I think the thing that made headlines in the Phoenix-Dallas game was Chris Paul's run-in with a fan in the crowd. I feel like this is something we talked about a lot last year, where fans kind of going a little crazy, and maybe it was because they didn't get to go to an arena, or they didn't get to go to a game for a year, and they forgot how to act, or they are just being cooped up made them a little crazier. But we saw yesterday, I mean, that kid looked like he was about 14 years old that Chris Paul was screaming at, and the kid had to be escorted for the game, and rightfully so, for what he did to Chris Paul's family.
Well, Chris Paul's a better man than me, because I probably would have been fined and or suspended, because I would have kicked his ass all the way to the parking lot.
It looked like he tried. It looked like he just had bigger guys pulling him back.
I'm sick of these fans who think because they have a ticket, they can do whatever they want. And, leagues and teams say, well, they're our customers. Well, that doesn't give a customer a right to do what he did.
Mm-mm.
Had he done that to my family, the game would have been secondary, and I would have made a clear, telling example, and I'm sure he would have sued me, and that'd have been fine too. And I think I've had it with this. I just don't think there's a place for it. I see it in baseball and the other sports I've been able to go to since the pandemic was over. I went to a couple of NBA games, and I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm rolling with this.
Yeah.
We had an issue on the road here recently, where some fans were a little vile in some of the things they were saying and doing, and making some other Cardinal fans feel a little uncomfortable. So we've got to do a better job of reminding people, hey, this is how you're going to be required to act. We don't care how much money you pay, but these are the rules. And if you can't abide by them, then somebody else is going to have your ticket.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with what happened yesterday during Game 4, a fan put his hands on Chris Paul's mother and also pushed his wife. Chris Paul's kids were also right there too, and witnessed the entire thing that was going on right behind, really in second row, right off there at courtside yesterday.
Here's where this has real teeth. We're talking about the president of the Players Association. All right, we're not talking about a third-year guy or a guy who's got a reputation of being volatile or anything like. We're talking about a guy who runs the association, the Players Association. That's like if somebody was giving Adam Silver grief in the stands. You know what? You don't think they're going to step in and correct this? Oh, no, they're going to correct it, because a lot of players of real legitimate status, they have their own security team. And I mean, they have to. They have it for themselves, but now they travel their families, and so they'll have security there as well. And that guy's job is not to go comb a guy's head. His job is to go alert security. We have a problem here, and
or take it into their own hands.
Yeah, and major league teams are doing this now. They have security on the road, to make sure we don't have an issue with fans. Fans who lost their fucking minds here. Okay.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to get hurt, and it's not going to be a player. Not going to be a player.
And I mean, you're seeing it everywhere. I mean, I'm sure you saw the video last week, Dave Chappelle.
Which I'm glad you brought that up. How does a guy not get charged with a felony? I know he got the poo beat out of him, but he didn't get charged for a felony. He ran up on the stage and attacked a guy with a knife.
Yeah.
And he gets 4 misdemeanors? Nah, they should have kept beating him. See, I don't have that kind of patience and understanding when these sort of things unfold, because I am one that, you call it prairie justice, whatever you want, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
He's here to do a job, and part of his job is not having to defend himself. But I told you earlier, Joe, after the Will Smith thing, it might be open season on comedians. And we're starting to see that. And I know comedians have to start thinking about how they conduct themselves, because there was a time when you'd have somebody in the audience, a heckler, and you go back and forth with him, and then all of a sudden you shout down the heckler. Now he's embarrassed. Some guys will just shut up and do nothing, but now you never know what a guy will do.
Yeah. No, from the Dave Chappelle guy to what you're talking about, security teams. I mean, it goes back, Claibs. One of my favorite lines is fuck around, find out. That's what's
that needs to be on a t-shirt.
That's what's going to happen. That's what happened to the guy.
No, you're right.
That's what happened to the guy that attacked Dave Chappelle. When you see his arm like
yeah,
that.
I mean, his arm looked like a broken branch on a Christmas tree. I mean, but I'm telling you,
did you see the face of the guy on the plane with Mike Tyson?
Yeah,
like that. Like that guy looked like, oh shit.
And,
okay.
and you know what? I don't have any pity for him. I don't have any pity.
No.
I wish they'd hit hard. I wish they had one more punch or one more kick.
Yeah,
because this has got to stop, because people think they can say and do anything and there's no cost for it. Just act right, man. We're not asking you to do anything that you haven't been accustomed to doing in the past.
Yeah, and right. I mean, yeah,
this punk yesterday, I'm sure his parents would probably defend him. Well, he's really a good kid. I can't believe you guys. There's always that parent that wants to defend their kid for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sick of that bunch too. All right, let's move on to something else before I start really getting pissed off here. I mean, you got me worked up now, man. And this has been a hot button for me.
We didn't even talk about the games yet. We haven't even talked about the NBA games yet. We're talking about all the off the court stuff.
Games have been good. But while we're on the subject of the NBA, worst trade of the year in the NBA was Simmons for Hardin, because neither team's getting much. They're getting a little bit more out of Hardin. So Simmons has just created a boondoggle here. He hoodwinked everybody. He had no intention of playing. And the Sixers or the Nets are on a hook for this guy. And then you get this ring chaser in Hardin. All of a sudden he has 1 or 2 games, but the guy was so out of shape he could barely play in a pickup league on Sunday morning. So that's the worst trade. The best series, man, I think that Golden State and Memphis is really the series to watch. Now, I know John Morant allegedly is going to miss tomorrow night. I'll wait and see on that.
That's tonight. No, that game's
tonight. Yeah, the tell is
Celtics Bucks tonight. Grizzlies Warriors is tonight.
The tell is that John Morant has already established a history of making miraculous comebacks, and I personally didn't think it was malicious in what he tried to do. I think when guys are scrambling for the ball, you're just trying to grab on and prevent. But I don't think Poole was a guy that was saying, I'm going to try and take this guy's knee out here. I didn't see that. So, for John Morant to talk about the code, hey, John, let me explain something to you. You ain't been around long enough to read the code yet. You don't understand the code. And if you think that was bad, you should have been around 10 years ago when that was par for the course, or maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, where you were lucky that you weren't, cut from the head to the shoulder. So let's pump the brakes on what's right and what isn't as far as the code is concerned.
If he's on the Grizzlies though 10 years ago, he's got Zebo right there, ready to defend him if something happens to him in the middle of a game. So that's the difference, is you don't have those enforcers out there anymore on an NBA team.
What did I tell you when the trade deadline took place about Memphis? I said Memphis needed to have a thumper and they needed to have somebody with some experience up front, and they didn't get either one. And I think they're paying the price for it, because Golden State, they can play that game. Championship teams, and you pick the sport, they can play it any way you want to play it, because that's how versatile they are. The year the Blues won the Stanley Cup, you want to skate? Oh, we can do that. Oh, you want to play the body? We got one of those guys too. They had enough. And when you look at the NBA, you're going to have some teams want to run and gun. Yeah, we can do that. You want to shoot the three? Yep, we can do that. You want to bang? Be our guest. So Golden State's got that ring experience that Memphis doesn't have. That's why I think they can win the series. And Memphis will learn from it. But I think their front office will have to learn from it too, and making sure that you're properly aligned going into the playoffs, because that's a completely different season.
Reports came out today that Jokic won MVP again, back-to-back years. Do you agree with him?
No problem with it at all. No problem with it at all. First of all, he shows up every night. Secondly, he's not whining about why he should be the MVP. Thirdly, he's on an inferior team compared to Philadelphia. And fourthly, you know what? He's so consistent. I mean, he's and I don't want to take anything away from Embiid, because he's got some tools also. I mean, his ability to shoot, his ability to put it on the floor. He's become a better passer. But I just think Jokic has done a lot of things to say, what didn't I do to win this thing again? I mean, his numbers were as consistent as anyone. So, and I know Embiid had a big year scoring wise, but you know what? I think Jokic is probably a little bit more of a complete player. He may not look like it on the eye test, but I didn't have a problem with it at all. But I'm sure we'll be hearing from a bunch of people whining about how Embiid didn't get it. Just play, man. Hey, how about this? Play back-to-back nights, and let's see if that works for you.
Celtics Bucks tonight. Bucks up 2-1 in that series, as it is in Milwaukee, and then Grizzlies Warriors is the late game tonight. Both of those on TNT. So that just means you get a lot more Shaq and Barkley and Kenny the Jet Smith doing that. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw the other day that TBS, TNT, whatever, they have like a baseball show now. They're trying to maybe emulate a little bit like that. What is it? Jimmy Rollins, Pedro Martinez.
Really?
Is it Curtis Granderson?
Yeah,
I think
CG. Good guy.
Yeah. That they're so now they have that show, and they came in there to play those guys 3-on-3 the other day at the TNT studio. Just seeing a guy like Jimmy Rollins though stand next to a guy like Shaq, and knowing that these guys were both all-stars in their sports, and just seeing the size difference in two athletes that were at the top of their games at one point. I mean, it is just it's still to this day, it's something that you just look at, and it makes you really realize just how enormous these basketball players are, and some of these football players are too. And you see them next to baseball players.
When we were in Miami, we were staying in the same hotel the Atlanta Hawks were staying in. And I happened to come in when they were about to go to shoot around. And I knew one of their assistants, and we were just standing there catching up. And a couple of players walked by me, and I'm just like, oh, my God. I said, are they getting bigger, or am I getting shorter? I mean, it is so – I mean, unless you see it on a daily basis, you will be enamored with the size of these people. And what they can do from an agility standpoint. I mean, they're very good athletes. They're just not basketball players. I think, though, so to me, if Turner, and I appreciate what Turner's trying to do in trying to create some synergy. I don't know, being on a set and everybody in street clothes trying to do something that they haven't done in years. They should have those guys go out and play 9 holes of golf and wire them up for sound just to hear them talk and tell stories.
It would just it would be the Charles Barkley show. I mean, that would be.
Well, I mean, you can edit it where it doesn't totally become him, but just let them play 9 holes of golf. We don't care how good they are, because they're not going to be as good as the guys we watch on Sundays, but just something different where you can just hear the chatter and just hear them talking about this guy, that guy. And maybe you have a couple of subject items you want to roll out there just to see what they say.
Hey, when you were in San Francisco, when you were covering those games this week, did you get a chance to get anywhere close to Sam Helly of the Giants and just see how big he was?
I tell you something. Yeah, I did. Because he could barely walk in the dugout. I mean, the dugout, he could barely walk. But this guy probably had to be wearing size 19, 20 shoe, man. I mean, he was massive. I mean, he's just long and lanky, which tells me he had to be maybe the worst basketball player in the history of his school. Because you how many guys at 6'11" that you just say, well, let's just put him on the bench, maybe a block a shot. Yeah, they just no, you go play baseball. You can't play this, So his name is Jelly. It's
Jelly,
it's
okay.
pronounced Jelly, yeah. But he had his moment of glory, and they shipped him off to the minors the next day.
6'11", tied for the tallest Major League Baseball player of all time, right?
You are correct.
Yeah, still haven't seen a 7-footer walk through any of those dugouts.
No, and I don't think you will. I mean, it's just too many obstacles for a guy to be able to hone his skill when you're 7 feet tall. Before some basketball coaches, told you this is what you need to do.
All you got to do, yeah. I mean, just to put you out there at the end of a game to stand in front of an inbound pass guy. At 7 feet, that's all you got to do for that.
Exactly.
Hey, we need to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up here. We still haven't gotten to the Kentucky Derby talk, so we will do that after this.
The pandemic has been the ultimate game changer for many companies, and Ameren, Illinois is no exception. President and Chairman Richard Mark tells us how they've worked with their customers who may have been harshly impacted by COVID.
The pandemic has really caused some unprecedented changes and challenges for all industries. And, for us, since we provide that vital service, we understand customers have to have it. And so with the pandemic, many people were out of work, didn't know when they were going back to work. So some of the things that we tried to do was say, how do we help those customers along? How do we provide some money to make it available if they couldn't pay their bill? How could we maybe suspend late fees and late payments and those types of things? So what we try to do is work with our customers. We provided last year over $26 million in billing assistance for customers to help. And basically, if the customers couldn't pay, we didn't cut anyone off and tried to just understand what was going on in the communities. And I think that's really the real core and basis of what we try to do.
Back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, and there you see the logo for Perfect K9 and Claibs. After being out on the road and being as busy as you are, you get a day now to spend with your pups here at home.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been around them in a while, and I'm gonna try and get them outside. The weather's good, and I'm gonna let them run around. I'm not gonna run with them. I'm just gonna throw some, watch them have fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And thanks to Jeremy and everybody at Perfect. My dogs are a little bit better behaved than what they used to be, and I can enjoy them, and hopefully they're enjoying me. And if you're thinking about a dog for yourself or maybe your family, I talk to them first. Make sure that you get the right dog, and there's plenty of ways to get them through Stray Rescue and a number of other outlets, but also make sure they get the proper training where you can truly enjoy and they can enjoy you. And Perfect has done a wonderful job for me, and I know they can do the same for you. It just takes a simple phone call or just go online, check them out. And once you do, you'll see why I'm so impressed with what they've been able to do, along with some other people I've recommended. They've come away feeling good about the investment in time they made into Perfect because they made it into their dog. They can do it for you.
By popular demand, the Cardinals Purse Giveaway returns to Busch Stadium on Saturday, May 14th when the Cardinals host the San Francisco Giants. Get your tickets at Cardinals.com.
Wrapping things up here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com. Claibs, it was Kentucky Derby weekend in Louisville at Churchill Downs, and one of the most exciting finishes of all time. The long shot, Rich Stake wins at an 80 to 1 odds, and I did not watch the race live, but I have probably watched the overhead shot of the way that race finished, where they had the little bars and they're showing you where Rich Stake was and they were showing you where the first place horse was. I've probably watched that about 100 times already. Just watching him maneuver his way through the crowd of horses to get up to the front down the stretch was incredible.
It really was. And really, I thought the lead horse jockey blew it because he was trying to cut off the horse on his right shoulder and never looked under his left arm to see if there was something, because he gave too much space to the rail. I mean, you and I could have been running through that between the horse and the rail. It was that much space. And I thought the jockey cost himself the race because he didn't pay attention to both sides of who was racing. And by the time he did, that horse didn't have anything left. But it was a great story. I mean, this is a horse that got in at the last minute because someone else had a horse that was scratched. But it also says, you just pull up a horse anywhere. You can, hey, come on, you want to run? I mean, I guess if you have the money to put up, and it's not a big amount of money. I mean, you have to be qualified as far as races you've been involved in. But I think what it does a couple of things. One, are there too many horses? At 21 horses, is that too many? Two, I think it opens up the Preakness, because there are a lot of guys, a lot of trainers and owners that say, wait a minute, this guy won? We can put a horse in that can beat that horse. And I know that there's some people that are horse owners that are certainly thinking about that now. We got 2 weeks to figure it out. But overall, it was a good day, and hooray for the long shot. I'm one that believes that, the favorites are the easy ones to pick. You want to have something with odds where you can make a little money along the way. So it whet the appetite of a number of people. As a matter of fact, I know somebody whose father ended up betting that horse and made a nice little piece of change.
Yeah, that I saw. I had a friend that just threw $30 down on it because it was the longest odds. That's $3,000.
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
right. You're making some nice money off of that for the weekend. I didn't get anything in. I didn't get any bets in on that.
I
definitely
Happy.
Would not have thrown it on there.
I like Smile Happy. Smile Happy was I think got bunched up too early and fought too hard to get out of, and didn't have enough horse left in them.
Also this weekend, talking racing, it was another weekend. The Formula One, Claibs. I know you're really big into that. The race itself, whatever, but Martin Brundle had himself quite a day yesterday. I don't know if you saw the highlights of his interviews before the race.
I saw a few of them. I didn't see him. I watched the day before quite a bit. I knew everybody was going to be there. I think this is going to be the premier event in the United States for a while. They have a 10-year contract to have it in Miami. Mm-hmm. They're going to take one to Vegas as well, and they got one already in Austin. Formula One is unlike anything we've seen here in this country in a long time, and it's going to be a people watcher event. And it's such a unique method of racing that you have to be high atop just to watch the whole track. I mean, it's 3.5 miles, but it's kind of like a road race, more or less. It's not just one oval. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit of a different challenge. But I'm anxious. I've been to 2 of them, and I went to the one in Toronto twice, and that was a pretty cool deal. But I think when you see, quote, all the beautiful people, it's a fascinating event, much like the Derby, and I think this was one of the great weekends in sport where you had the Derby, you had the Grand Prix, and the Formula One race, and those are 2 events that when they come around on an annual basis, you pay attention to it.
You had yesterday. I saw the sports schedule yesterday. Let me see if I can pull it up. You talk about everything that we had going on the schedule. There were 18 baseball games on the schedule yesterday. Along with that, there were, let's see, it's 18 baseball games, 4 hockey games, 4 EPL games, 3 MLS games, 3 WNBA games, 2 NBA games, a PGA final round, a NASCAR race, Formula One. Oh yeah, and the USFL game, which Claibs, I was watching yesterday. The I don't know if you saw. You were out in the
No,
West
I
Coast.
didn't.
You probably weren't even.
No,
not that. It was Peacock or NBC. They have the new Sunday morning baseball game. They have they have that. And yesterday it was White Sox, Red Sox. So it was Jason Benetti with Steve Stone and Kevin Youkilis. And it was, you know what? They didn't do anything fancy with the broadcast. It was just Jason Benetti called the game.
Yeah,
Steve Stone, Kevin Youkilis.
Ron Couple took a pitch right in the mush yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, had to come out of the game. But it was just a nice, simple broadcast. They didn't try to do anything special. They just threw it out there for the game. Youkilis talked about the Red Sox. Stone talked about the White Sox. It was great. It was, but after that game was over with, they went to the USFL game.
Yeah.
Claibs, there are more people at a middle school football game than there were at this. Like, friends and family didn't even show up to this USFL game.
Why would you? With all the other events you just listed that were going on in the world, why would you go to a USFL game?
Claibs, there were more people watching games at Busch Stadium in 2020 than there were at this USFL game.
I don't get that. I'm not the biggest advocate of minor league football as it is. First of all, there aren't enough good players. Secondly, less than 1% of all the guys who play will actually be in a training camp and be there for the last cut.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just doesn't move my needle. Now, there's somebody who thinks this is going to give them a shot, but I'm just not one of them.
Maybe one of all the guys on all the rosters. That maybe one. Which, by the way, I meant to bring all this up. The Martin Brundle yesterday before I guess on Sunday during the Grand Prix in Miami, he stopped Paolo Banchero, the kid from Duke, who's probably going to go top 3, top 5 in the NBA draft, and started interviewing him as if he was Patrick Mahomes.
I heard about that. I didn't see it, but I heard about that. He
goes up to him.
I've ever heard this, Joe.
He goes up to him, Claims.
Goes around and says, well, they all look alike to me. So, maybe it's one of those moments.
He goes up and asks him a question, and the guy kind of gives an answer, and on camera he goes, oh, well, this isn't Patrick Mahomes. No wonder he didn't answer me when I yelled Patrick at him. He goes, anyway, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. I don't know if there's anything I can say to something like that.
Oh, and then hey, I guess yesterday too, you also had the boxing last night too, right? Canelo, or was that what it was?
Canelo, he got knocked off. He you know what? That guy came in the ring and he was ready to go. I think Canelo was kind of resting on his laurels because he hasn't really had a tough fight in a while. I think he was looking ahead at Triple G again, and he got caught. I mean,
it was going to do Canelo versus Triple G
because that's the only guy that can probably match up with him, and people recognize. You have to remember, man, between MMA and USF and boxing, which is trying to make a comeback, there's so many blood sports to follow now that once you latch on to a certain fighter, you just kind of follow him because there's too many other guys that you just don't know enough about.
Yeah. So that's one. I mean, I can't get into it. I can't because of that reason. I mean, there's nothing to follow when you don't know who the top guys are with that. Claibs, you got Orioles in town this week, and then followed by the Giants again this weekend. What else do you have coming on going on in between?
Well, that's a great question. We'll visit with Alex Ferrario, talk some Blues hockey tomorrow. Of course, anybody who hasn't heard about our podcast with Joe West, 5460, we suggest you check that out. And we'll be heavy into baseball and try and get some NBA in toward the end of the week.
Yeah, the second episode of the Joe West podcast out right now, a conversation with former Cubs first baseman Mark Grace. And for all the St. Louis fans out there, a run-in at the end of the interview by Kelly Chase. He joins for about the last 10, 15 minutes and tells a story of a night him and Grace went out drinking that you
don't tell him. Let him listen for himself.
I'm just saying they want to hear it. You got to tune into it. You got to hear that story along with a lot of other stories from Mark Grace and his career. We hope to record a few others this week. Got some phone calls into some pretty big names for more episodes with other ones already in the can. Claibs, we are not at any kind of short of an episode right now when it comes to the Joe West podcast and the ones that we have coming up moving forward. That's going to do it for us here today on Lunch with Claibs and Joe. As always, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find him online at thehomeloanexpert.com. He's Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. We'll talk to you next week.
At St. Louis Acura, we have over 330 pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models, and all of them are covered by our St. Louis Acura Promise and backed by our Better Business Bureau A+ rating and 30 years in business. We also service all makes and models of vehicles, including glass and bumper repair, paint touch-ups, and full mechanical services from one of our 24 technicians. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you, no matter what vehicle drives you.